Welcome to Senior Living Marketing Perspectives. I'm Debbie Howard, co-founder of Senior Living Smart, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dan Tyre about inbound marketing and marketing automation. Dan is the author of Inbound Organization, How to Build and Strengthen Your Company's Future Using Inbound Principles. Dan is an authority. There we go. There's the book. Dan's an authority on inbound marketing and sales and has become a regular speaker, blog writer, mentor, and coach for those who want to harness the power of inbound marketing to improve their bottom line. Dan joined HubSpot as a member of the original team in May of 2007 as the very first salesperson in the company. Wow. Well, you've seen a lot of growth.
Amazing. I have to pinch myself. First of all, I've never worked for a company for 13 years, right? And second of all, the growth in 13 years has been absolutely unbelievable, revolution, and the crowning jewel to my 40-year business career.
I can imagine. HubSpot has just done an amazing job innovating and creating a solution that is just so valuable. I think that we got introduced to HubSpot probably right when we started our business, probably 7 or 8 years ago. And we've certainly noticed, the change, but you have far more experience.
So nice of you to say. I get a lot of credit. I didn't start HubSpot. I was just a member of the founding team. It was Dharmesh Shah and Brian Halligan. And those guys were awesome and brilliant, right? They saw the changes that now seem obvious, but at the time they weren't obvious. And I remember when I was picking up the phone, I used to cold call for HubSpot. Don't tell anybody. I'd call everybody I knew and said, let me tell you about this new way of generating business. And they'd all ask the same questions. They're like, what is inbound? And I'd explain it. And then they'd go, does it work? And one of the things that not a lot of people know is I was the third customer for HubSpot, right? When I was president of a software company here in Phoenix, I was actually a customer of HubSpot. And I knew that it worked. And I kind of explained, well, we only have like 30 customers, so I'm not really sure. But now, like 75,000 customers, 132 countries worldwide, 3,500 employees. And the mission is still the same. In the old days, right, Brian and Dharmesh would be like, no, we want to help everybody. We just want to help everybody. And I'm like, that's the greatest thing ever, but I think that's going to be hard. And now the reach, the tools, the technology, the education, the philosophy, everything has just made such a great impact. And I'm so proud of continuing to be part of the organization.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I can just tell you from personal experience, and I remember being horrified at the beginning when our first agency, that was a HubSpot agency, said, you have to write, three blogs a week. I was like, oh my goodness, and my full-time job is going to be writing these blogs. And why am I doing this? And this is exhausting, and creating all this content and ebooks. But we went from, and I think we probably launched our website, I think probably about 7 years ago. We went from 0 contacts to 18,000 today.
No way.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
And it's purely organic. We had no money, so we couldn't, buy advertising, all the things that you could normally do, or send out direct mail, or whatever those other kind of more outbound channels were. We didn't have the funds to do that as a startup company, and to now have 18,000 subscribers, to whether it's our webinars or our podcasts or our newsletters. I can tell you it works, but I do think it's fairly new to the healthcare world. Our agency serves exclusively senior living, and that really ranges from 55 plus, independent living, assisted living, dementia care, and then the campuses, the CCRCs, that would also include some level of skilled nursing. So we are not the most tech savvy. We are high touch. We are not high tech. So I think. Yeah, I think we've relied on
markets, right? And we see that a lot, right? The tech companies, they all embraced it very, very early, right? They got it. There's a reason why certain industries are traditional, and that's not bad. It's not wrong, right? And it did take a little bit of time for folks to understand the implications, right? And this is going to go on for another 25 years. People are going to look at you and say, wait a second. You started blogging when?
Yeah.
And then congratulations, Debbie, because that's an extraordinary accomplishment. And that's one of the reasons why HubSpot's so fun. Brian Halligan, the CEO, is always talking about supporting the little guy. And this is the first time in history that it's not the size of your wallet that gives you the visibility, but the size of your brain. And in your case, how you want to help people. We were talking in the briefing meeting. Why did you start this podcast?
Yeah, it was really just to share thought leadership, innovation, and frankly, inspire people. And I'd been thinking for a while about doing a podcast, but I'm busy doing a million things and hard to get guests because they're traveling all over the country. And this pandemic, honestly, was kind of the catalyst to say, boy, more than ever, we need to inspire each other and figure out what this new normal is going to be and share, share that thought leadership across the industry. So it just seemed like a good channel.
All right, so you just wanted to help people, which makes you a great part of the inbound ecosystem. You were probably an inbound person even before we started calling it inbound, right? Mm-hmm. Because the attributes of an inbound organization is they like to help people. They like to teach people, treat them like human beings. They like to make sure that they're adding value. They do things out of the goodness of their heart. Dharmesh Shah, our co-founder, says, if you want to make $1 million, help 1 million people and ask for $1, which I'm like, okay, I'm still in that line, right? And all of these great marketers. Now, you remember what it was like in 2006, right? How did you buy something in 2006 if you wanted to buy it?
So I think that it was probably much more interpersonal. I feel like there were a lot more face-to-face personal interactions that happened. And I also feel like it was a much smaller ecosystem that I was exposed to. Those seem like, when I think about 2006, those are the first two things that come to my mind.
Okay, those are both great observations. And at the time, you'd either go to a retail store or you'd actually call somebody on the phone. You'd pick up not on your cell phone, you pick up the landline phone and you'd call a salesperson. And the salesperson would ask you a few questions like, is this a priority for you, Debbie? And how serious are you about making this purchase in the relatively short term? And it was horrible, right? Because it was before the internet was standardized and for creating content. And it was before you started and everybody started blogging. So if you wanted to buy something, you had to ask a salesperson to determine how much it cost, what it was all about, right? You went to trade shows with a magazine. Do you remember magazines?
Yeah. Yes.
I haven't seen a magazine in 5 years, right? Except my doctor's office. He has a couple of them in there. And that's the way you bought stuff. The gating factor was the salesperson. And I rode that wave for 30 years, right? I was a salesperson, a sales manager, sales executive, right? I ran sales teams and I got all the money. I got all the money because I was the revenue for the generator of revenue. And when we would be in front of the board of directors, they'd call in the marketers and they say, all right, Debbie, how much revenue did you generate? And you'd say, well, it's kind of hard to say because we created the brand and we got this many leads. And they'd be like, all right, Debbie, thank you very much. And then they're thinking, how can we cut our budget? And then they call me in and say, all right, you gave me 8 new headcount. We generated $4 million worth of incremental revenue. And they're like, okay, do you need 8 more? How can we scale this? And so you were always my excuse. Not you personally, but I'd always throw marketing under the bus. I'm like, no, it's marketing's fault. They don't give me enough leads. How can I be expected to sell if I don't get leads? Or if you gave me too many leads, I'd be like, I don't know which ones to call. It's marketing's fault. So marketing was a built-in excuse. Now, when you're in front of the board of directors, right, especially if you're using HubSpot, you could say, no, you gave me $400,000 in revenue. I generated these many visitors. I generated this many leads, and we generated this amount of revenue based on that blogging and podcast and social and content. And they're like, oh my goodness, wow, how did you do that, right? And I say this to everybody, so it's not too controversial. Marketing is more important than sales. In 2020, even in traditional industries, it's not that sales isn't important. But when people are looking for a senior living facility when they're looking for understanding a little bit about how the whole thing works, the first
Right.
thing they do is what? What's the first thing you do if you're going to make any kind of purchase?
They go right to the internet.
Why?
Because all the information is there, or it should be there, and I want to remain anonymous, and I don't want to have a sales interaction right away. I don't want anyone to jump down my throat. I want to experience, and I want to self-navigate and create my own journey, and I want to make the decision.
You're such a good consumer. You're such a good businesswoman, because that's what everybody does. 93 to 96% of all B2B and B2C purchases start with either a social inquiry, right? On a daily basis, people will ping me on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter. They're like, what is this HubSpot stuff? How does this inbound work? I saw your book. Is this really applicable to a B2C context? And that social is very, very important way of generating business. And people do that because exactly what you said. Number one, they don't want a pesky salesperson to call. Number two, they want to do the research. Number three, they want to see all the reviews. Number four, they want to make their own decisions, their own conclusions. And most importantly, you want to move at your own pace. So sometimes people will start researching a year before they'll make the purchase. And salespeople can't talk to prospects that far in advance, right? What percentage of the sales process do you think most consumers want to go through before they talk with the salesperson? That's the second statistic of note.
So I'm just thinking about our clients. I would say they get 85 to 90% there on their own, which is encouraging and horrifying depending on how well prepared you are for that. So for the people who've done a great job and have given up control and are willing to put all of their information out there for people to experience on their own, I think that's great, because by the time somebody does make that transition from a marketing qualified lead to a sales qualified lead, they know so much about you. I mean, they have read your blogs, they've downloaded your content, they know your pricing, you know, they're ready. I mean, they are like, all you have to do is not blow it. But for the people who still haven't embraced it and their website is basically an online brochure, then that's a horrifying statistic, because they're probably going to get eliminated. I think 37% of people will eliminate you from their decision just based on their experience of your website.
That's right. Yeah, that first of all, excellent. Second of all, you put in the hard work for the last 7 years, so you deserve the reward. And third of all, that's exactly what happens. Even in traditional industry, it's not that the sales process isn't as important. It is still super important, but there needs to be a handoff between the inbound process of getting the lead at the beginning and then the inbound sales process of reaching out. And that is very, very different. I've got a classic blog article that I wrote in 2014. It's called "Always Be Closing is Dead, How to Always Be Helping." And because I worked as a salesperson for HubSpot twice, once in 2007 as the first one, and then a second in 2014 when I came back to Arizona. And I noticed that people, exactly what you said, they wanted more and more online. And by the time I connected with them, they're like, no, I already did that. I already know all about your pricing. What I want to know is availability. If you can give me a discount, is this the right price? And will you take care of me if we start the service? And I'm like, wow, you got all of that from the website. And they're like, yeah. Been on your website 47 times. I've done all the research, taken all. And so the more like information that you provide, the more that you tell people on your website that you understand them, that you understand where they are, that you understand their reasons for making a purchase, that you like tie into their emotional reasons for choosing, and that you're helpful. That's the key. That's what makes you a great inbound marketer, is that you like to help people, that you like to give them the right information to the right person at the right time. That's so much easier online because it's scalable. You can see who it is. You can monitor the times they come to your website. You can provide the right information to the right person at the right time, which ultimately makes you an easier person or company to do business with, which means you'll get more business.
That's great. And I'm wondering for the people who maybe are catching up on the conversation around, well, I'm hearing all about marketing, inbound marketing, but I really don't understand the basic foundation of it, or I don't know if I'm doing it, or I know I'm not doing it, and how do I start doing it? Can you take us from kind of the basic philosophy of inbound and then the foundational principles so that people can figure out where they are in their adoption?
Sure. So there's some basic parts that play very much into the new normal. And like starting this podcast, because you said, no, I wanted to help people. The foundation of inbound is that you want to help, not sell. Now, it's a little bit controversial, not too much controversy in 2020 because we've proven that this is a huge competitive advantage. I sometimes put on a pinstripe suit, walk into a boardroom because I got the gray hair, and I ask people, do you want to be found when people are searching for your product and service on the internet? And in 13 years, no one's ever said no. Sometimes they say, no, that's not the way gastroenterologists do it, or that's not the way pediatricians do it. And I'll say, well, you're wrong, and I can prove it. They go, what do you mean I'm wrong, right? I'm like, just Google pediatrician, see how many searches come up. And it's 1 million in a quarter of a second. And I'm like, who do you think is searching for that? And they're like, ooh, I didn't think of that, right? And so treating people like human beings where you help, you add value before you extract value is super important. The best and easiest way to do that is online based on the demographics and the motion that you just described. And then you're going to get people to your website that you've never met before because you're going to optimize around certain keyword phrases, certain content, and certain pillars. So everything that you put on your website, including blogs, podcasts, landing pages, call to action, they all have to work together so that you're not getting everybody to your website. You don't want everybody to your website. You only want a specific person, right? What we call a persona, an ideal customer profile and a persona. Once you figure those out, then you're going to attract those people because they use certain keywords, usually what we call long tail keywords, which are more complex combinations of keywords that like indicate a more qualified buyer. They're going to come to your website and then they're going to see things and they're going to say, ooh, that's interesting. And you always want what we call a top of the funnel offer on your website. And that means it's not something about your product or your location or your property. It's something that can help people, like a checklist for checking your mom into a senior living home, or how to determine a good fit for a senior living home, right? All of those things are things that most companies can think up in 30 minutes. It's what they say when somebody does an on-site visit. But putting it on the website now all of a sudden helps you align with what their goals are. And once they find that conversion form, they drop their contact information. It should go into your database. Now you have the right to start sending them customized, personalized information. Now, in 2020, if you ever send me an email that says, dear customer, or Dan with my name misspelled or something like that, we will never do business again. Like, a lot has changed in 13 years. In 2014, the average company had about 6 competitors. And what do you think the average company, how many competitors do you think the average company has today?
I don't know. I think I'm really limited to our information about our industry, which, people would probably look at 8 to 10 different communities initially and then narrow their choices, because who wants to go visit 8 to 10 communities?
That's true, right? The average company now has 44 competitors. 44.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. When you have that much like confusion, it's exactly what you said. The people who find like reasonable alternatives first, typically on the first page of Google, right? You can pay for those ads. You can target Facebook ads. There's a variety of ways to do it. Or the way you did it, right, Mighty Girl Debbie, is that you created all this content and people found you organically. How much did it cost you to create all that content, Debbie?
Just my time, really. We wrote every article for the last 7 years. And then finally, I got so exhausted. I hired a wonderful copywriter. She's just terrific, and she's HubSpot certified, and she gets it. And it was like, can you go back into that content and can you put your flair on it? And, because we have so much content over 7 years, it's like, how do we repurpose it? How do we make it more relevant? How do we update it? Maybe tie it to this podcast and really start reusing some of that content. And she has just done an amazing job. And now she's going to help us build pillar pages to centralize a particular theme and really drill down. So I'm thrilled to have her on board.
That's awesome. When you got started, right, it was your time. There is a cost, certainly a value there, but it's not like renting your marketing, because now you just hit like on one of the main points is now you can reuse that. You can repurpose that, right? There's been like phenomenal change in your industry over the last 7 or 8 years. And so you need to update all this, but you still have the content. You still rank for those keywords. And it's a huge advantage that you started when you did. In fact, people are always saying this is kind of risky. And I'm like, what do you mean it's risky? They're like, I'm not sure it's going to work. I'm like, it's going to work, right? Yeah. The risk is that you decide to not start like an inbound program, and that your competitors optimize around the first page, and they have the top of the funnel offers, the calls to action, and the landing pages, which is just technical jargon for ways people can leave their contact information, right? And guaranteed in the future, if you ever want a lead from the internet, it's going to be harder and it's going to cost you more money, right? Because there's only 10 organic results on every first page of Google, unless you change your settings. And to get there, you got to kick somebody off. And it's going to be hard to kick you off, Debbie Howard, because you've been doing it for 7 years. You're just locked in, right? You've got your territory and you've staked it out. And so somebody who comes along is going to have to do a lot of work to displace you in that process.
Well, let's hope so. for our clients, we really map out the customer journey through their stages of awareness, consideration, and decision. I will tell you and anyone who's listening that the number one conversion asset that we see throughout all of our clients is as simple as a brochure. Take a PDF of your brochure and gate it and create a landing page. And the reason that people want it is because they're hoping to get pricing. They're trying to self-qualify or they're trying to self-disqualify. And because there's a whole controversy about, do you put pricing on your website or don't you, because you want the salesperson to sell the value and they're sticker shock because it's expensive. If you're not being transparent on your website with at least you're starting at pricing, then the only place that people can get it without that scary sales interaction is they're hoping that your brochure has some level of pricing. And we should certainly allow people the right to self-qualify or self-disqualify. And then the sales team will have less to complain about that these folks aren't qualified. And then the other one is, right. Yeah,
there has been a little controversy. Should I put my pricing on my website? And I think it's different in the last 2 years. I think we wanted people to opt in first to have a conversation. I think now when you have that many competitors, it's a win-win for both, right? And so the marketer is going to bring the leads to the website. Then they're going to manage through the client acquisition. That means you're going to drip me personalized, customized emails, workflows, send me videos. I love videos, by the way, right? Lots of great information delivered very effectively. And then sooner or later, if you're in my short list, then I want to talk to a salesperson. That handoff, sales and marketing, we call it schmarketing. Have you ever heard that term? Actually, in 2007.
I think you did invent it.
I did. It's verifiable. This a professor at Harvard, Dr. Thomas Steenberg, was doing a case study on HubSpot, and Mark Roberts was getting interviewed, and he said, no, one of our guys calls it schmarketing, and I was just goofing around, but that sales and marketing pushed together, it's a very real thing, because in 2020, you got to work seamlessly with those salespeople. Actually, your listeners may not know, right, that like prospecting and trying to follow up is one of the most challenging parts of any sales job. So if you're getting more qualified leads and if you're talking to more qualified folks, right, that's a huge opportunity to increase your productivity. And so, but salespeople have to do it a little bit differently as well, right? And so when in old days you'd cycle in and you'd qualify people, like my example earlier in the podcast. You can't do that anymore. Today, when I call you, I have to say, Debbie, right? Thanks for picking up the phone. And then what were you looking for help with? I want to start off with a very, very open question because I want to do a little bit of discovery. The inbound sales process, right? By the way, you can get a free education at the HubSpot Academy for inbound marketing or inbound sales. Any of the executives who are listening to this, if they want to educate their staff for free, you go to HubSpot Academy, or you can just email Debbie. She'll send you the links. And there's an 8-hour program for free on inbound marketing. There's a 2-hour program for free on inbound sales. And in those two categories, right, in the inbound sales, you cycle in, you create the connection, you offer to help. That's all you do is just offer to help. And then if they're interested in your help, then you move to a discovery call, right? Where you're going to ask a series of questions where it should become evident in 8 to 10 minutes that you are one of the people or one of the companies or one of the properties that fits the qualifications that they're looking for. And in that process, you want to be of service, right? The hardest thing for a salesperson to do is to say, I don't think it's a good fit. But I have an example. It's actually in the book, The Inbound Organization, that Todd Hockenberry and I wrote, of a situation where a salesperson said, nah, it's not a good fit. And the person's like, what do you mean? And he's like, you're better off going with a competing product. And the customer was like, oh my goodness, I want to buy your product. I got my credit card out. And the salesperson is like, you're not going to be satisfied. You're not going to be happy, right? I don't think it's a good idea. I'm not going to take the business. And that is one of the hardest things for a salesperson to do. But a modern salesperson will engage, will offer to help, will analyze and go through a discovery process. And then if it's not a good fit, they'll say it's not a good fit. And the reason is, right, what we call the flywheel. In 2020, the most important component of your marketing and your sales is your customers. And Brian Halligan has said your customers are more important than your sales team. And I happen to believe it's true. If you don't have happy customers in 2020, it's going to be very, very hard, right? In the old days, right, if you didn't have happy customers, they complained to your boss, and that was it. Today, in 2020, if you don't have happy customers, it's all over social media. It's all over like the web, right? And there's ways, functional ways, that marketers can now leverage these use cases, testimonials, these podcasts, these videos to explain, right? And it's almost like a video or audio search where you're having your customers explain what they liked, sometimes what they didn't like about the process, so that you can align and get good fit customers, right, to scale your business. And it's like counterintuitive. Some people were like, I'm not sure I want to do that. But in 2020, the riches are in the niches, right? The more you can define your great fit customer, right, the more you can define this is exactly the way we'll work with the best fit. It's really hard for entrepreneurs because they know they can help a lot of people. But in 2020, you want to get a smaller group of really good fit customers. And then you want to make sure that they publicize how well you're doing for them so that it helps you get more of those same kind of customers.
Yep. Well, now that we've moved kind of into the sales conversation, can you define for our listeners kind of the difference between marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads, and then kind of best practices to advance them?
Okay, that's awesome. So first of all, there's 3 categories of leads. There's actually 4 if you're a software company, but that's 3 standard categories are leads, MQLs are marketing qualified leads, and sales qualified leads. Leads are owned by marketing. That means the first time somebody comes to the website, they're not ready to see a demo. They don't want to talk to a salesperson in most cases, right? They just want to understand, like, what are the variables involved? Where are you located? What are maybe the pricing? What is your philosophy towards admission? Do you have a waiting list? Things like that. And the best way to manage that is to get somebody's contact information and then drip them the right information to the right person at the right time, right? Those leads are rarely called on by a salesperson because it's just too early, and you don't want to be that pushy person. But after somebody comes back to the website multiple times, and maybe they fill out a form that says, want to see a virtual walkthrough, or they want to attend a webinar, or they want to understand a little bit more about some of your properties or some of your services, right? That moves to an MQL. And an MQL should be followed up by the sales team with the same process that I talked about, calling somebody and saying, Debbie, this is Dan from HubSpot. Waiting. Thanks for picking up the phone. I saw you came to the website. Oh, wait a second. You've come to the website multiple times. I saw that you filled out a few forms. What were you looking for help with? And when then they say, oh, I was looking for this and that, you're like, okay, tell me a little bit more. And they should use their active listening skills to understand what that person was looking for. The SQL, or sales qualified lead category, is much smaller, but they typically move very, very quickly through the process. Right. And that is, those are people who definitely want to talk to a salesperson. There's an event that happened that forced a sense of urgency, or they're very, very interested in getting all the details, or they want to visit today. They're from out of town and they had another appointment fall through and they're like, let's go to our next option. Those SQL, sales qualified leads, need to be followed up very, very quickly. In most cases, within 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
I
right?
know.
Insane. But that is the instant gratification world that we live in, and how important it is to make sure that you're engaging, right, either via text or via phone call with all the people that are like in that mode of wanting to talk with somebody because their interest rate level is very high and they want to get answers now. And if you're one of the people who has the technology foundation where you can get back to them quickly, you're at a huge advantage.
Yeah, we began adding a text feature on all of our SQL workflows. So immediately the sales team gets, hey, there's a tour scheduled, go get it. There's somebody who requested a call back, go get it. So those things are kind of instantly communicated, which is so important, kind of that speed to the lead. With MQLs, though, we do lead scoring, so maybe we can talk about that, only because our sales process tends to be longer. People have a longer consideration. It's very emotional. It's very complex. It's not transactional in any way. And if we give the MQLs to the sales team too quickly, they'll make a couple outbound attempts and then they move them to lost, could not reach. And we're like, they're not lost. So maybe we can talk a little bit about lead scoring and kind of that function.
Very good. Based on the fact that you've been practicing inbound for several years, you have what everybody wants, right? You have more leads than the sales team can manage. So lead scoring takes the fundamental attributes of what a good fit customer is and reverse engineers the leads that come in based on like what their title is, or based on which pages they looked at, or based on how many times they've come to the website. And all that can factor into like a mathematical calculation to give you a scale of 1 to 100 that would indicate how ready the customer is to buy and how qualified they are. And that is very, very helpful, right? The salesperson that walks in should see a task queue of their top rated leads sorted by that lead score so they understand who to call first, right? In today's fast-paced world, instant gratification world, pulling together that information and showcasing it effectively is a huge competitive advantage. And in fact, I'm a big believer in saying that in 2020, all companies are technology companies. It used to be that nonprofits, maybe senior living funds, they're like, we're not a technical company. And that doesn't work anymore. All companies have to have a tech stack that's, number one, powerful. Number two, easy to use. Number three, all in one. What my buddy Morgan calls a single attribute of truth, right? Just one place where everybody goes, they're working with, because if you have this in multiple systems, right, it gets to be this huge hairball where you don't know, you're spending all your time trying to compare information rather than act on the information for competitive advantage. One other thing though, when those salespeople call, you can't just call twice. And I do this presentation all over the world. And I tell them you have to call 4 times over 12 days. And they're like, especially young people, they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you got to call and send an email. You leave a voicemail in the United States, right? Then you wait 2 days, you call a second time. You leave a voicemail, you send a second email. You wait 3 days, you call a third time and send a third email. And then the fourth email 2 days later is, should I stay or should I go? And that is, if you include video in 2 of those 4 email sequences, you'll see a huge increase. And video is now starting to become mainstream in prospecting, and a great way to differentiate and to ensure that your customer knows who you are, right? Debbie, if you sent the video email, they're like, oh my goodness, look at that lady. She's so nice. You got the background, you got the cool earbuds, you got the big smile, right? If I'm sending you a video email, you see the gray hair, you see my orange wall, you say, who's that guy like screaming at me? And now I'm not Dan, the sales guy. Now I'm like that guy in the HubSpot t-shirt, right? And it's a very humanizing aspect that formulates a personal relationship more quickly.
No, I love that. I love the idea of video. We as an industry have not been investing as much as we should be. I think people are trying to play catch up now. But one of the things that we did just because of the COVID situation was we started embedding these personal messages from the salespeople, because they felt like we're not having these interpersonal relationships anymore. And they're such relational beings, and they're used to having those. And they were liking marketing automation because it was efficient, it saved them time. It did kind of all those rote and repetitive tasks and follow up that they didn't want to do maybe, but they also felt like they were losing that connection. And so we said, well, why don't you do just a quick, hi, I'm Debbie, and I see that you're downloading a brochure, and that's going to give you a great idea of what's going on in our community. And, I'm here to be your guide, and I would love to be able to have a conversation with you and answer your questions. And we just embedded that in the marketing automation. So every download a brochure that they got, well, our click rates went up to 48%.
You're such a smart person. You are such
crazy.
A smart person. I know you're on the cutting edge. I know you've been doing this for 7 years. It's always amazing to me. People didn't move more quickly, but it's not their fault. Maybe they didn't understand it. Maybe they were busy with other things. Maybe there was certain limitations at where they were working, right? But in 2020, especially in today's world, we know that helping beats selling anytime, right? And the more you can get that personal kind of approach, that's the greatest thing about technology. It's not the technology. It's the technology making you more human. It's having people see you like a human being, and that becomes a very transformational and helps you earn more business.
Yeah, definitely. So we talked about inbound, which is really the kind of art and science of pulling people to you, all the magnets that you do to pull people to your website. And then you have the magnets that then, convert them, that you have a compelling enough, valuable enough offer, because the currency on the web is exchanging my contact information for a piece of content that's valuable enough. And I know full well when I give you that, I'm probably going to be followed up on, so people aren't surprised. And then we talked about marketing automation, which is once you have that, based on the action that they take, you can then create very personalized journeys and workflows that are very much, with all the branching logic of yes, no, if, then, they can go this way or that way. And can you talk a little bit about workflows and marketing automation?
Sure. All that is setting drip campaigns up in advance, where based on predetermined qualifications, certain people are getting certain information at the right time. If you're looking at a senior living facility for yourself, there's a certain amount of information you want. If you're doing it for your parents, right, then there's completely other information that you have to. And if you send it to me when I'm really considering it for my parents, like, I'm insulted, right? So you have to be like strategic and smart to understand what we call the personas, to understand how to deliver the right information at the right time. But you're exactly right. It is a science, right? The way you win a new business development in 2020 is, number one, you start with an inbound philosophy. That's what the book, The Inbound Organization, is all about. You're a mission-driven organization where everybody knows the mission, where everybody understands who you serve, where you understand how you're going to run a play, you understand your targets, and you understand the things that you're not going to do. We call that an M spot. We've had it at HubSpot for 10 years, right? And it's the foundation of the inbound organization book. And then you actually act the way you would if you were talking to another person, right? So if we met at the grocery store, you would never say the same thing to me as you would say to my wife, right? You'd be like,
Right.
Dan, why are you holding that cheese? Are you a Gouda fan? Oh my goodness. And it's a little harder if you can't see me, but the same rules apply, right? You just have to be aware, you have to understand, you have to lean into the personalization and customization. And there are more and more tools and methodologies and processes to make sure that I feel special. And as soon as you help me, Debbie, which is why this podcast is so good, as soon as you help me, I'm like, okay, now I owe that lady Debbie. It's either overt, like, no, she's so smart, I want to work with her, or it's subliminal, like, no, she taught me all about this. Right. She was there in the beginning. I didn't even buy anything for the first 3 years, but she taught me how to do it. I kind of owe her. So I'm going to make sure that she makes the short list. And that is that's the special sauce of HubSpot. The reason why we have so many customers, we've grown so fast and have such an ardent ecosystem is because we've been helping people for 14 years. Right. And it's helping without any expectation of something in return. It's let's just help because that's what most people want. And some people, if they want to use paid products, will move to paid products. If they use the free forever, right, we're certainly okay with that. We're just doing more good for the universe. And that's a very strong, sustainable, competitive advantage that tons of people are discovering and implementing to a high degree of success.
Yeah, so we love HubSpot and all of our clients, we bring on board. And can you tell us a little bit about, well, I know why HubSpot. I mean, I can articulate it probably better for you because there are some other products that are kind of becoming available in the senior living space. Some of the CRM companies have kind of white labeled some of these solutions. We've taken a look at them, compared them to what we can get in HubSpot, and have chosen really not to kind of play in that space because we really want to bring people the best and the most intuitive. So maybe if you can speak a little bit about that, and then the different levels, because you do have a free level, and then maybe some of the features. I think that might be helpful.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So first and foremost, the best competitive advantage for HubSpot is you, right? You're part of our partner ecosystem and you're awesome. You understand senior living far better than any technology is going to ever know, right? And you understand HubSpot is probably better than I do, right? And so understanding and go to market with one of our 6,000 partners worldwide is a strong indication that the technology really supports the way people work today. To that end, there are 400 integrations into the HubSpot platform, from Slack to Gmail to Outlook 365 to GoToWebinar to all these great integrations, and more on the way, because number one, your CRM/marketing/service is a system of record, and we want to make sure you're using the best of everything that you use now without having to make difficult decisions. Right. Third of all, when you have all the information in one place, right, the all-in-one gives you so much time. The salespeople look at the same information, they just look at it differently. Marketers need to see everything that sales is doing because of the schmarketing kind of motion, right? They just look at it differently. So one source of truth is the all-in-one philosophy. Just makes it easier, right, for you to do it. And then there's the HubSpot service and support, which is typically the highest ranked in any of the categories. There's the actual technology that's super easy to use. The UI is just beautiful. We've always been relatively oriented towards easy to use. Now with the new enterprise Marketing Hub Enterprise, CMS Hub Enterprise, some of the new enterprise products coming in the fall. It's powerful and easy to use, right? We have great training and service. We have a great ecosystem. We have great live or virtual events. We have the philosophy of leadership of utilizing inbound so that our customers can grow better. We have the academy. We have a commitment as an organization to diversity and inclusion. One of the things I'm most proud of, 13 years at HubSpot, we have 3 women on our board of directors. We have a person of color on our board of directors, because if you're going to sell to women, you have to have women in management positions. 48% of our executives are women at HubSpot, and that's just over the last 4 years, us making a commitment. That's Katie Burke, who's the chief people officer, took a stand and said we want to be reflective of the people we sell to in each one of our 130 countries, and have made huge progress on that. And then, as you said, all of our products started free. So you can start HubSpot this afternoon. You just go to the HubSpot free software page. You download the CRM, which is free and will always be free. You download the HubSpot Sales free, right, which will get you started. And then you download the HubSpot Marketing or Service free, which is awesome. And you get to start utilizing the technology, right? And then you get to decide. No more salespeople, right? You get to decide when you want to upgrade. You want to decide if you want to pay us a little bit more. You can stay at free for as long as you'd like. And we greatly welcome you into the great inbound ecosystem so that you and your company can grow that.
That's great. Yes. I love that you brought up the all-in-one, because so often in our industry, there's this feeling, with sales and marketing, we're always having to report up to the C-suite and the operators, and they're kind of the keepers of the budget. And there's always been this feeling of like, I think marketing's working, or I think at least half of our marketing is working, but I'm not really sure which half of our marketing is working or what channel, and I think the fact that you can set up all of your campaigns, and you can really look at your organic and your paid and your social and your offline and your call-ins, and all of those channels can feed into one system, so that when we are, called to those wonderful reporting calls, we actually can present in a way that's very professional and very well prepared, because we do have to answer, to those results, because marketing's always been just a little bit fluffy and a little bit hard, kind of intangible for people to really understand.
Not anymore. You hit on 2 very important things. Number 1, reporting up, that's the attribution, right? Next time your senior management team says, all right, we gave you that budget, that new marketing person you were talking about earlier, how did her web or blogs do? How did her content do? And you could say, oh, let me show you. She generated 312 leads in a 4-month period. And they're like, do you need another one of those? That is awesome. So the all-in-one definitely helps people understand where they can really add more people in budget. And the other thing is marketing used to be a lot of stories, and there's still stories involved in marketing, but a lot of it is also math, right? And math is very important, because if you're running a campaign with Dan Tyre and you're running a campaign with Debbie Howard, and Debbie Howard creates better results than Dan Tyre, guess what we're going for, right? We're going to do Debbie Howard all day, because when you do A/B testing and multivariate testing, now you get to scientifically define the best way to generate the best fit customers. Oh my goodness, in the history of like sales and marketing, we've never been able to do that. And now with the right technology, it's right in your wheelhouse.
Awesome. Well, that is just wonderful. I think that's a great place to stop. And I would love for people to know how they can get your book.
You can go to inboundorganization.com. Right? There's lots of free resources there, and lots of ways that you can buy the book, and you can find information. It's also on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. You can go to www.dantyre.com, right, where is my public speaking site, where I have my mentorship program, and I blog about once a week for all the great reasons that you talk about. You can email me at dtyre@hubspot.com, and I'm at your service, right? I believe in the inbound philosophy. I get a lot of fun helping as many people as I can, right, in this really unusual time, right? The ability to reach out and remind people that human beings are community-minded, right? That we're innovative, that we're smart, that we're social. We're all in this together, and we can all work together to like define what we want in the future. I think it's an important message, and I'm happy to help your listeners in any way possible.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for sharing your senior living marketing perspectives with us. And hopefully we'll see you at a HubSpot event in the not too distant future.
Very good. Let's give a quick shout out to our friend Kathleen Rush, who
Yes.
helped coordinate all this. Kathleen is a beautiful spirit, a great HubSpotter, a super nice lady, right? And Debbie, thank you very much for having me on the podcast. Happy to come back and do it again. And
Wonderful.
stay safe and good luck in 2020.
Thanks. You as well, Dan. Take care.